When I was a kid, I remember laying on my back on the cool summer grass on the front lawn of my grandma's house. There'd be wind blowing, and we would just lie there staring at a cloud, seeing what would come up. Maybe it's a dragon, maybe it's an elf. I think this is a memory that a lot of us have. Time didn't exist. There were no to-do lists or emails or any real schedule to keep. We would just lay there and see what our imaginations would conjure up in the limitless potential of these clouds. As I reflect on this experience, I'm amazed at what we were able to accomplish at that young age. We were excitedly observing something that we had no control over. We were looking for what was possible, creating and dreaming, even if it wasn't a perfect fit. We would share openly without fear. We would giggle, affirm, and then move on to the next cloud. Sometimes we would shake it up and lie on our stomachs with our arms spread wide, pretending like we were hugging the planet. We laughed pretty hard at this idea of this giant earth and us tiny little kids latching onto the grass. I look back fondly at those days at my grandma's house. In those moments of perfect childlike wonder and simplicity, I was calm, complete, and happy. With my body on the earth and my eyes on the sky, I was simultaneously connected, tiny, and significant. Think of how powerful it is to feel those three things all at once. Connected, tiny, significant. I was exactly where I was supposed to be, and I wonder, how can we feel that more often? How can we feel complete in the moment without our minds wandering to the next overdue task, plan, or meeting? Today I want to talk about how can we transform how we view and interact with time so that our generation can intentionally invest our time in ways that will forever impact our world. So first, let's talk about transformation. You know, there are times where you have those moments and you know that that moment has changed you. Time is elapsing slower and it's like you're breathing in every detail. This is a moment of quiet reflection, overwhelmed with gratitude, and a movement that I got to be a part of throughout college and today. About 24 hours before this moment, we stood in that exact spot talking about how cool it would be to stand there during such a historic inauguration. This moment is a product of choosing opportunity. We were visiting a small town in the Philippines that somehow turned into all five of us hiking and four-wheeling up a volcano and then zip-lining back down. I'd never seen my mom in a helmet before. It was really quite magical. These are examples of surreal pauses in my life that have forever changed me. So for me, transformation is when something enters my life, a person, an experience, a question, and I can't go back to how I viewed the world prior to that moment. And sometimes transformation takes time, over days or months or years. About a year and a half ago, there was this week that continues to shape me today, shape my worldview, my lens, my purpose. I have a friend who hosts an annual Oscar party, which we all get really into. And there's one week where I watched 2 movies because I was trying to get everything off the list. And Tuesday night in late January, I watched Lincoln. I walked away inspired, totally fired up. I found myself the following day asking my partner, what are we contributing to that's controversial? What are we taking a stand for that is risky? Let that digest for a moment. What are we doing that's pissing people off? Another day goes by, I watch Les Mis, another incredible story that results in more inspiring questions for me. The following day, I find myself asking my team at work, what would you contribute to? What would you advance knowing that you would not succeed in your lifetime? Again, for me, transformation takes place when something happens and my perspective is totally changed. I can't unsee what I just witnessed. I can't unknow what I just learned. I can't go back to seeing the world the way I did previously. Again, my hope is for us to transform the way we interact and view time. So let's pause for a moment and think about that. Let's focus on time. In your minds, answer these questions. What is a long time? How long is a long time? Is it a month, 5 years, 2 hours, 10 minutes? It depends, right, on what you're waiting for or maybe who's involved. Maybe you are trying to catch a plane and you're running late, or maybe a whole 60 seconds has elapsed since you texted your crush. Or maybe you are waiting for an ambulance to arrive or for the doctor to return to the waiting room. Maybe you're thinking about the future, about 10 years from now, about 20 years from now. How old will you be 20 years from now? What about your parents, grandparents, friends, people that you love? How old will they be? How about 40, 50, or 100 years from now? It's hard to think about that realistically, right? That's a lot of years. But as I reflect on my own experiences, I think about this question of time as it relates to our generation, the millennial generation, mostly born in the 80s and 90s. You know, we're known for a lot of things. We're known for being pretty into ourselves, and we're also known for being willing to take a stand. However you cut it, we as young people are yearning for connection, yearning to be a part of something bigger than ourselves. But I'm afraid that we as a generation may be too short-sighted. I'm afraid that we as a generation, in our never-ending quest to be better, faster, or more efficient, we might overlook the gifts that looking at a cloud, looking at the sky, those lessons that we learned from those days. I'm afraid that we as a generation, in our immediacy, in our urgency, in our desire to see gratification, see results, see impact, we might have lost sight of both the past and the future. I have 3 messages for us as we talk through how can we adjust how we view and interact with time. Life is long, we have progress to make, and remember the past. So my friend was having a birthday party. I know a lot of people have an experience like this, except at age 25, I got to attend my very good friend John, his 80th birthday party. Attending the party of a friend who's turning 80 is an absolute gift. Hearing his stories is like looking into the past. Hearing his advice is like looking into the future. My favorite thing about John is anytime we're somewhere where we have to go around and share what's new, he talks about the 1.5 million things he's involved in. He'll talk about how retirement's fun, but he's even busier now than when he was working. And then he always talks about how he's still trying to figure out what the heck he's going to do when he grows up. John is a wonderful reminder to me that life is long. We all have different lengths of time on this earth, but we all have long lives where we get to choose how we invest that time. We get to choose in what relationships we want to nurture. We get to choose what causes we want to fight for. At John's birthday party, they were sharing all these stories about when they were getting in trouble as teenagers and when they enlisted because our nation needed them, about how in college they threw this party solely to invite one girl that he had his eye on. They got together, worked out. John has packed so many stories in his 80 years, and it's refreshing for me. I'm 28, over 50-year age difference from me and John, and it reminds me that I have 50 years, maybe 20 years, maybe 60 years, where I get to make a difference. I get to make the world a better place. In today's society, I believe there is such an emphasis on time expiring, on how we might not have enough of it. John reminds me that all of our decisions are a continuation of our story, that we are on a long road trip, and sometimes we get turned around, and sometimes we take the long route on accident, and sometimes we're lucky enough to have partners in crime along the way. I get to meet with a lot of students, and often students are kind of freaking out about their next step, whether it's the high school they're going to, the college they're going to, or what's going to happen if my mom disagrees with my decision, what's going to happen with my siblings here at home. And I have to remind myself, I have to remind them that there are no final answers in these choices. These are drafts that we get to write and rewrite over and over again as our life goes on. In college, I joined a sorority, and it was one of the most meaningful communities I've been able to be a part of. Through a long tradition of sisterhood, I was able to live the values, say the words that women said 100 years prior. One of my favorite stories is when we got to go as Mario Kart, for Halloween. And this is on the front steps of my sorority house. It was built in the mid-1960s, and the house previous was just down the street. And in the mid-1950s, it became pretty clear that we needed a larger house. So at that time, believe it or not, women were not allowed to buy property on their own. So alumni women came together, and they schemed with their husbands to buy properties next to each other because they had to use their husbands' names in order to have the land to build this very house. The house that I lived in for 3 years, and the house that thousands of women have called home for over 50 years. Can you imagine that? It wasn't that long ago where women couldn't buy houses on their own. I live in a house that I purchased right when I was about to graduate college. I was given a privilege that I didn't even know I didn't have. In my own community, 50 years ago, that's something I wouldn't have been allowed to do. And that privilege was given to me, like many privileges that are unseen or overlooked, by people that I have never met, people that are unknowingly a part of my story. This reminds me that we have progress to make. Progress takes time, and we have progress to make. What privileges are you creating for people 50 years from now? Another time that I've been in awe at people that have come before me can be captured in this moment of elation. I had the opportunity to be at the state capitol when Minnesota had a historic vote on the Freedom to Marry Act. I was so excited in this moment. I could feel the energy in the room. There was laughing and crying and smiles and celebrating. And for me, I've been a part of this movement since my teens. And when the vote finally came through, we were ecstatic. We did it. We did something that no generation has done before us. And while our generation can be proud of these successes, we must remember the past. We must remember that the first gay rights organization was founded in 1924, 90 years ago. That 90 years ago, people were willing to take a stand on something that was risky, something that probably wasn't going to be successful in their lifetime, and they did it anyway. We must remember the past not only to pay respect, but to remember that we have a responsibility for the future. That our decisions today, our actions today, have an impact 20, 50, 90 years from now. Generations before us knew that there was work to be done, work that they would not see the benefit of. I hope our generation is willing to work long term for causes and issues that we may not see finished, we may not see the benefit from. Generations before us, without the answers or the resources, they took the unpopular path, fought anyway, and we are reaping the rewards of their work. We get to be here, right here in this very moment, thanks to people we will never meet, people we don't know anything about. What are you going to do for future generations? For your future kids or grandkids? People you don't know, using technology you've never heard of, in a world that may be unrecognizable to you. What path are you paving knowing that you are not going to finish it? Knowing that you are paving it only so others can continue it after you? My call to action is this. Let's dramatically adjust the way we view and interact with time. Let's recreate the days of cloud watching, the days where jumping in a lake and playing with friends were perfectly acceptable items on the to-do list. In that calm space, I hope we can emulate our old ways during cloud watching. I hope we can excitedly observe and be part of things we don't have control of, dreaming for what's possible, even if it isn't a perfect fit. When in this mindset, we must reflect. We must be risky. We must ask ourselves, what can our generation be known for? What are we willing to create, advance, support, invent? What are we willing to do? What will we do today that will positively impact people we will never meet? Thank you.